Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's almost 1 o'clock here. We'll wait about a minute or so. We're excited to have everybody here on our July town hall. This is the fourth month that we're doing this. So we're excited that you're able to join us.
Time flies, right, Jim?
It does. It does. So we're super excited to have you on. If you all could just this is more of a town hall type setting. If you have any questions, type them in the chat, open your mic. We'd like to hear from you. We're going to ask some questions through the process to ask, what your pain points are. And we would like to talk through some of that. So very important, much different than some of the webinars that you've been on previously with JJ Keller. This is more of an open mic, and we'd like to hear what you guys have to say or what plagued you. So introduce my buddy and pal here. Since we're here at 1 o'clock, this is our subject matter expert, Brandon Wood. So
hi, everybody. Grateful to be here. I got a quick question, if you don't mind me just jumping in. I know we're a little bit unscripted on these things, and I hope that the audience doesn't mind that unscripted thing too much. How many of you all on the call have been on one of these before? Have been on any one of these? If you just want to do a thumbs up, or if this is your first one, first town hall meeting, and that'd be nice to know, right, Jim?
Absolutely. And
great.
Oh, Edinger, thank you. Excited to have you back. First one for me, Chuck. All right. Well, we hope you enjoy it.
Anybody been on one of these before? I guess that was what the thumbs up. I asked two questions right at the same time, right? So who has been on one of these before and is returning for another?
Oh.
Great, Nicole. Good to see you again. Well, hopefully as these topics are presented, and if you've been on one of these before, coming in again, if you carry anything from a previous session and say, hey, when we talked about this thing back in May, I've been trying this, or I've been doing it. They are actually, Chuck. Yep, they are recorded. Janice probably help us out a little bit to navigate to those for you, but
I'll drop it in the chat in just a moment.
Perfect. So that's also something that we will have a topic, and Jim, I might be burying your punchline here just a little bit, but for each of these, we do realize there are a lot of different discussion topics around buy-in, all of those kind of things that we want to be able to share our experiences with this. Jim, from an operations perspective, me more from that safety and training perspective, and be able to answer your questions. But Jim, I don't think we'd mind at all if anybody was bringing in questions that they had from a previous one, or if you've seen one of the recordings and you want to say, hey, when you guys were talking about this one thing, could you explain that a little bit more? I think that'd be just fine as well, right?
Absolutely. We'd love to answer your questions. We want to talk about best practices. We want this to help you all. This is the important part, is we want to make sure that we're answering the questions that really plague you. So, thank you, Janice. I appreciate you throwing the archive up there. So
I won't derail this anymore for you, Jim. I'll let you get started. It just popped into my head that'd be something kind of neat to know, right? How many repeat people do we have on here, and set that up. But go ahead. Sorry about that.
Absolutely. But I'm going to give the mic right back to you. I want you to tell them a little bit about yourself. Tell them about your experience in the industry, some of those that haven't experienced a town hall and haven't heard you.
haven't heard all the stuff that I've done, right? Well, I've been in the industry for the better part of it. It's good to see you too. ITF team, I love it. So I've been in the industry for about 32 years now. A lot of that as a driver and a driver training, doing over the road training. Also some regional. I built training programs and also worked with entry-level driver training programs as well as an assistant program director, and also creating most of the materials that we use for JJ Keller and Associates Principles of Defensive Driving, and also entry-level driver training. I decided to get really interested in coaching and adult learning later in my career, actually, and so went back to school for a master's master's degree in career and technical education and a doctorate in adult education as well. So with that kind of background and experience, probably that I've said it before, that in 25 cents will buy you nothing, but hopefully some of the experiences that I've had in the industry can maybe are kind of similar to what some of the callers are, or some of the people attending this meeting have experienced. And, one of the things I think is important about these town halls is just, hey, you might be doing something right. You're just not seeing the immediate benefits of it. So just being able to come on to a meeting like this, hearing what other people are doing, hearing a little bit about what some successes that we've seen in this program, that's why I'm always happy to be here and join you. You were first on the list. I know you held the door open for me, which is also one of the principles of defensive driving, but take it away, Mr. Warsdale.
Oh, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I always enjoy these conversations. This is always fun. But for those of you that have never been on a town hall, my name is Jim Warsdale. I am your MC for these events. I've been with JJ Keller going on my 6th year. Brandon and I are part of the team that built the driver training program here at JJ Keller. So we were ground up. We built it from the ground up, and we've been doing this for 6 years. So we've been able to see some different things and work through some different things and build this driver training program. So we've experienced a lot. We'd like to share our experiences and some of the things that we've got going on here, some of the things that we're hearing in the industry, some of the best practices. So this is what we're here for. So I've primarily been in operations, supply chain, mostly in driver training and safety, but look forward to the conversation and appreciate everybody for jumping on.
How many clients do we have right now, Jim? How many people have we had this in front of? It's got to be 500, 600, 700 clients using our program right now.
At least, I would say probably upwards of 720, 730 at this point right now. So it's outstanding. So,
we've seen some pretty good feedback. Is any of the callers on? Are you all using a JJ Keller training program or driver training? Have we been on site with you before to help you roll one of these out? Give a thumbs up if we have. If we aren't currently, then I'm sure we can talk to you about how to take a closer look at some of those materials as well, right?
Absolutely. So awesome. Well, let's jump into it. Let's jump into the topic for the day. Oh, on a previous company. All right, ITF team. Awesome.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
So today, our topic of the day is why buy-in is important for your safety program. So Brandon and I, it seems like a loaded question there, Brandon. So why is buy-in important for your safety and training program?
I have thought about this question a lot, and there's a lot of different ways you can look at this question, but I think that the one that really resonates with me speaks particularly to truck drivers. Hey, Dusty, all right, we know you with ITF Group. Good to see you, my friend. Glad to hear you. Glad to have you here. But here's what I have seen. And it's because I started truck driving back in the early 90s. In 1992 is when I got my CDL and started over the road driving. I didn't have, a computer. I didn't have a GPS. Heck, I didn't have a credit card or a cell phone, of course. This is early 90s. So what we started to see is that drivers get into trucking for that autonomy, for that feeling like they own this. Even if, Rand McNally was my friend and hero. I went through one of those every single year. Did you use the spiral bound, or did you use the one that you have to replace every year? Here's what we see is that has not changed. Drivers still will get into truck driving, and they will get into this kind of job because they don't want to be sitting at a cubicle, because they don't want to have to punch a clock, because they don't want to have that supervision on them all the time. So in just creating that, you get a sense of buy-in. Never owned my own truck, never owned my own trucking company or anything like that. I always drove company trucks, but when I was driving the truck, that was my truck. That was my truck. I wore the the uniform, and I had that truck. That was my equipment to get a job done. Maybe just like if you were to think about trucking as, and I know this is a long stretch for a lot of people to say that it's a lot like working with and coaching athletes. But when you think about it, what an athlete needs to do is they need to use a tool or something that they know how to do, an experience or an expertise, in order to get a job done. But think about baseball for a second. If you have the bat and you're standing at the plate, do you have a team around you right then? Is there anything except you with the baseball bat at the plate getting a job done? And that's kind of what trucking resembles, isn't it? Where I've got a truck, I've got to use everything I know about this thing in order to get a job done. And then I got to get it done safely. So buy-in simply means that you have an ownership of the practice, you have an ownership and a responsibility to it that must be manifested for you to be able to see that you are doing good work without having to have somebody else tell you that you're doing good work. Isn't that kind of true? And please cue up your mics right now. If this is something where I'm presenting this so that we can discuss it, because the next most important question, at least as I see it, is, okay, dude, so how do we do that? How does that happen? How can we do that? And especially in a culture that we have right now, especially in this device-heavy kind of culture that we're in, where it does seem, and I would say that a lot of drivers see it as, I'm just an autonomous figure there, and being watched all the time, and how that ownership starts to fade a little bit. That's my statement about this. Tell me what you think. Is this something where creating buy-in means that we have to also generate a sense of ownership of their practice for these drivers? What do you think, Jim? You're operations side of this thing.
Yeah, that's ownership is everything. You need to create accountability when it comes to your team. And we'll talk about this in a little bit. It needs to come from everybody, from leadership, from the top down. When you're talking about, building buy-in for a culture, for a team, for a program, whatever you're talking about, your leaders, whomever they may be in your fleet, need to walk the talk. They need to be the ones that are setting the example for the rest of the group. If I am the leader for my organization and I'm not following the principles that we're trying to push onto our team, or we're trying to build with our team, then everything else is going to crumble, because everybody sees me do what I do and they're going to repeat that, or they're going to follow it. Well, Jim's not doing this. Jim's not doing that. Why do I need to have ownership and accountability? To Brandon's point earlier, a lot of people get in the trucking industry because they want a job with autonomy, where they can just do their job and nobody's going to bother me. Nobody's going to mess with me. I can handle this. Boy, how has the culture changed when it comes to the driver training world, with the cameras and the braking devices and the telematics and all the things that are in are put in these vehicles now, that are part of these vehicles, and it becomes a big deal. So I think it's a very, very big part of it.
How many of you all have cameras, and more specifically, how many of you all on this call right now have forward and reverse facing cameras? Let me ask it first. You've got forward and reverse facing. That's forward and reverse facing cameras. You know how that is becoming more and more rare, just because we see that, forward only is what we typically see. Why is it? Why forward only? Forward only typically is because we see this incredible pushback from drivers, because suddenly they feel like they're being monitored, right? Mm-hmm. And so typically that's why a company decides to go to forward only. The second reason would be that if a reverse facing camera does expose a driver distracted on their cell phone, something like this, that we are afraid that our drivers are doing, that we don't want to catch that behavior just because of a litigation for it. Yeah, drivers think we're watching them all day long. I like that. Like, I don't have better things to do than to watch you drive. But it still is a perception of a camera on you at all times. You know what we thought actually back, I would say 10, 15 years ago, What we really thought is that new drivers coming out of maybe out of their teens into their 20s, getting into truck driving, oh, they are so used to being filmed all the time anyway that none of them will be bothered by this. Has anybody ever heard that before? I remember hearing that back about 10, maybe 15 years ago, that, oh, well, these reverse facing cameras, it's not going to bother a lot of these guys that are new in the industry because they're so used to being filmed that they won't be bothered by it. Nothing could be further from the truth, because it's really the communicated message behind what we as an organization are trying to capture, what we're using these cameras for, how we intend them to be used, and then living up to that expectation. So it would be a culture that needs to be established from supervisors to, directors, safety directors, up through, to Jim's point, up through the higher levels of the organization, really knowing before you do this what it is that you're using the cameras for and how you plan on using them to assist a driver, not just catch a driver in the act of something wrong. The worst time to put a camera in is going to be when you see that your drivers aren't doing stuff right, because that's an absolute gotcha. That's like asking a driver to go break off a switch for in the backyard. Now, that might just be me down in Northwest Arkansas that knows about breaking off a switch to carry it inside. But that's what that seems like. Hey, boys, hey, team, we're really having some bad numbers here. We're having a lot of accidents, so we're going to start putting forward in reverse-facing cameras in all of the trucks. What is everybody on this call here?
Whoa, what's going on? What's wrong? What are the issues with our fleet? Why are we doing this?
They might actually even think, well, why would you do that in my truck? I haven't done anything wrong. I've got to clean. I've got to just do that on the people that you're catching. They might actually be able to do that. Oh, I love this. We're using AI. I think we're going to do a town hall on the use of AI and how that might help with companies. But they don't understand. They don't understand that, of course, safety records and that kind of thing. I understand, Chuck, exactly what you're saying, is that you might say it's kind of like, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, then you have nothing to worry about. But it is still the perception of now having somebody supervise or watch you all the time. And when a communication doesn't exist that says, here's how we really want to use these things, we're not out to just get you. But what we do want to see is, we want to see if we can help you with some behaviors that will change and develop your skill set even better to be a more successful driver. That sounds like a lofty thing to tell a driver, doesn't it? It sounds like, yeah, that's great, Brandon. You can say that on a call like this. But how do you say that to a bunch of drivers? It is absolutely essential that you have a game plan for how these things are going to be rolled out, and then start to develop some training around it. You've got to say, like, you want drivers to be going around saying, hey, they pulled me in to give me an attaboy for what they caught on the camera one time. How many of y'all use camera footage that you catch where the driver's doing everything right and everything looks great, to share that message around the organization that this is the great stuff that we're doing, this is how we're using the cameras to catch that? If you do that, this is a beautiful way to say that we're developing buy-in, and we're putting some safeguards in place that's going to help protect us in case somebody else is doing something wrong. But then how do you coach the ones that are having a negative experience? And that's also a big, important part of using cameras for your fleet. Anyway, I think I blew way past this. This is just something, I know you and I have these conversations all the time, Jim, don't we? About, okay, so how do you get a driver to accept training, or accept a camera, or accept something in the truck that's different?
I think, and we've talked about this in all of our town halls, you and I strongly believe that adult learners need to know why. Why are we doing this? Whether they agree with you or not, they need to know why. You got to have the conversation. You got to build it with them and say, we're having some incidents, we're having some issues, so we're putting these cameras in the trucks. They may not agree with you, but they will respect you because you've communicated that with that conversation. Had that conversation. Here are the reasons why we're having incidents, accidents. We've had some issues with this. They may not agree with you, but they'll at least have a respect for you when it comes to that at the end of the day. So I think that's the important part. So how is that?
I've seen, I'm sorry, Jim, I've seen that the message doesn't get articulated to some supervisors then, and they start to use it as gotcha moments. And then our words aren't matching what we're doing organizationally. So training your supervisors, your directors, everybody how to use these things in a better way to be able to coach drivers positively also has to fit into that safety culture, don't you think?
For sure. I wanted to call out Chris and Dina. I saw them raise their hands earlier when you asked who was using the cameras positively. I did that in a previous life, and you bring it to your safety huddle, and I would black out who the driver was and say, look how this individual handled this. There was somebody that cut them off. They were coming up to a stale green light. They slowed up. They had a great space cushion here. They were working in the right direction. And look at the impact. They were cut off, but they still were able to stop safely. You know how this works. I think that's a big part of it, is being able to celebrate the small victories as well. So I think you got to be able to do both if you're truly building a strong safety culture.
One of the things that we've been doing is because we do have a JJ Keller camera system, Video Protects. We've been working very closely with our Principles of Defensive Driving program and Video Protects using forward and reverse facing cameras. That camera system can be forward, reverse facing. It has a sound feature as well to where you can capture narrative driving. But one of the things that we do in Principles of Defensive Driving, and Jim, you know this, is that we use that footage to say, let's talk about what this driver is doing. The driver can be autonomous, or he can be, like you said, smudge out the face or whatever. But what we can do there is in training and coaching for defensive driving, using cameras that are pulled from that in order to say, let's take a look and let's criticize this together. What do you think this driver could be doing differently? How do you think this driver could improve on what they're doing? Just by having that conversation with your existing drivers, they become familiar with the camera. They've already taken that as you're asking them for their opinion on what a driver can be doing different. And so they immediately have greater buy-in to be able to say, this is something I think a lot of times, and this, Jim, we'll be on site and people will actually catch themselves doing something on the camera and they kind of go, yeah, that looks familiar. That's tailgating up to an intersection. And then we take it further and say, well, what were you not able to see because all of your focus is right in front of you? This is all done using JJ Keller's Video Protects camera. And they say, well, we can't see around the vehicle as well. Exactly. What if you allowed more time here to where you could look around the vehicle? Would that even be something that you would want to do? We have drivers all the time saying, I don't know why they would do that. Well, they do, and we know they do. We know that drivers get in a hurry, and we can start to work with our drivers to find out exactly why it is that they do some of the things that they're doing. Does that make sense? A little bit? It does to me. I've seen it work. I've seen it where just including drivers and what do you think this driver could be doing that's better? They automatically start to say, yeah, okay, and then they start to recognize it in their own behavior. But that's one way to create that buy-in, especially with cameras. I love discussions on cameras. I think they're fantastic.
Janice, will we be sending out the PowerPoint? Oh, yep, we got a thumbs up. Great.
She's on top of things.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh, that's Chuck. Chuck wants one of those too.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I can definitely include that in the notes as well.
Okay.
Love it.
Outstanding. So, Brandon, we can talk all day about this stuff, but let's talk about buy-in for an effective training program. What is an effective training program? There's so many different definitions of that, dependent upon different sides of our industry. How do you consider a program effective? What sort of characteristics do you go by?
I think it's a great question, and what we typically see is that the metrics are individual. So, a company may be having more close quarter maneuvering mistakes. They're nickel and diming themselves to death. By the way, in this day and age, especially this year, when we are seeing every company start to pull back a little bit, right? Pulling back resources, pulling back, not necessarily introducing new things into their programs, not spending a lot of money on different new initiatives and all that. That is I'm not all alone here to say that that's happening in 2025 a little bit. But what we see is that a lot of times we still have the same missions that we need to get in place. We just need to see how we can take existing what we're doing now and just ratcheting it up a notch a little bit more. So if you have nickel and diming, knocking doors off, fixed object collisions, fender benders, little, curbing, and you're spending a lot of money on that, then it really has to be targeted to where we're saying, okay, what is happening in those situations that's close quarter maneuvering? So building a training program is going to be first to see where are these mistakes happening. Then the next thing is to say what behaviors are evident in the driver and what they're doing that will lead to these things. Fixed object collisions, backing and parking incidents. What are the behaviors that are in place that lead to those things? I mean, distracted driving, sure. Getting in a hurry, maybe. Being under the gun for deliveries, just not paying attention, which we could say is distraction.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, Dina, I love that you said goal, but my next question is, why are drivers not getting out and looking? It's always my next question. Why do they not get out and look? They're in a hurry. Great. Why are they in a hurry? All of these kind of things, we can get to root cause analysis when we are looking at how to see if, and they haven't been trained to do that effectively. There's a lot of stuff to teaching goal. And I don't mean to go on a goat trail run with you here right now, but let's get back to this. So the first thing you have to see is where are we and what do we want to affect and what do we want to change? If you don't have that, then you're going to be applying a ton of stuff in all kinds of directions. I call it chucking a dart into a dark room and hoping that there's a dartboard there. Turn the lights on in the room, find out where the dartboard is, and then you get a chance to be able to start chucking darts at it to see that you're hitting the target. If you don't, then you're just going to start to apply things because you think that they should work, but you have no way to measure the effectiveness or the success of them. Then start to get to root cause analysis that's not just obvious. Whenever you say that our drivers should be getting out and looking more often, figure out why they're not. If they're in a hurry, start to figure out why they're in a hurry. Start to get into that driver's head just a little bit. If you feel like you're not training, get out and look effectively, putting the GOL stickers on the mirrors and putting the, sending it out in your quarterly safety huddle saying, hey, if you're on site right now, and we see that you don't get out and look before you start backing, it's going to be an immediate write-up. All of those things we might think are going to nudge drivers into doing something because we told them to. But here's what you get if a driver does something just because you told them to. I call it ditch digger syndrome. And this is not against any ditch diggers. If there's any ditch diggers on the call, I appreciate you guys so much. Here at my house right now, I love the ditch diggers because they help me reroute water and all of that kind of thing. So please don't think I'm getting down on ditch diggers. Ditch diggers, however, the ditch digger syndrome that I'm talking about is if you tell a ditch digger to dig the ditch until you come back, and that's your orders, and you're going to get in trouble if you don't do exactly what I tell you to do, what is the ditch digger going to do when you turn around and walk away? They're going to dig the ditch, right? That's what you told them to do. You told them what to do is dig the ditch. Now, the next part of the analogy is the ditch digger hits a water main. Water spewing up everywhere. What is the ditch digger going to do? The answer to that question is keep digging the ditch because you didn't tell them to take ownership of what they're about to do in order to successfully get it done without an accident. So the ditch digger is going to keep digging. The supervisor comes back, says, "What the heck are you doing? You hit a water main." What's the ditch digger going to say? "Doing exactly what you told me to. I'm digging this ditch." If you tell drivers to get out and look before they start backing on every backing maneuver, they will do just that, and they will do nothing more. If you start to put it in their head that the best time to get out and look is to confirm you're right about something, to double check if you're right or not, and to take the time to be able to take a pause before you get into a close quarter, and then you take time to practice that in a meaningful way, urging them to do this because, hey, you hit something here. What could have solved that for you? But putting it into a thing that they can use. It's a great training practice to get into. I know I spent a lot of time there on ditch digger syndrome, but guys, it is absolutely true. If you tell somebody what to do without getting them involved in the decision making there, they will do exactly what you told them to do, nothing else, and they'll continue having accidents. I firmly believe that. So identifying gaps through the assessment of this thing has to be based on some sort of metrics that you create. Where are your problem areas? Also, what keeps you up at night? Are you fearful of the nuclear verdict because you're seeing a lot of unsafe driving metrics or something like that? But then to also start to look behind the numbers just a little bit to what do they mean? Drivers that have a lot of fixed object collisions in completely open spaces where it should be easy for them to back into a space, maybe they're trying to handle too many things all at once or they're in a hurry. We can tell, and we have been able to see this in the industry, is that drivers that have a lot of fixed object collisions or even close calls tend to carry those distracted behaviors out onto the road. So if you're having a lot of those in your fleet, start to look for the accidents to happen on the road because your drivers are trying to do too many things all at once. And then it says it in the next bullet point, customize the content to these specific needs. Don't address stuff that's not on the needs, but really talk to your drivers about, here's what we need to improve. Here's what I want you to start thinking about. Using the coaching as if you were coaching an athlete to do better in their job that they are about to do is a great way to get drivers involved in the process of being able to grow their business, take ownership, and be able to create that buy-in. Including them in it instead of talking at them can help create that buy-in. Jim, we've talked about that before. You kind of agree with that, right? If we start handing out rules and regulations and saying you must do all of these things, then drivers sit here with arms folded like that, and then they go out, and if you're not watching them, then they go out and do whatever the heck they were going to do anyway. So you put a camera in the truck, and that tells me that, oh, so you don't trust me that I'm going to do what you ask me to, right? And then we get that further separation from buy-in of what the safety program is supposed to be.
Yeah, there's a fine line there when it comes to this. And I think as a leader for an organization in transportation, when you write a policy or you build a policy, you need to let your team know what the policy and let them understand why that policy is in place so they know why. So they're able to go through that and understand, okay, we put this policy in place because we've had numerous incidents that happen with XYZ, or this happened a certain specific way, or we have to do this a specific way because of this. And the more you bring everyone in and give them ownership, Brandon, you alluded to earlier, give them the ownership of what we're doing, the better you're able to hold your people accountable, the higher standard they're going to work with because they're going to care about the work, and they're going to be you're going to be able to see a happier fleet. You're going to see a safer fleet. You're going to be able to, I mean, there's so many different metrics that you're going to see. Your fleet is going to be so much better, across the board.
Do you mind if I jump in with kind of a it's going to be a question, and I want you guys on the call to answer it purely and honestly. And this is going to be, don't get the wrong idea when I ask this question. Do you trust your drivers right now? If you were to go back, do you trust your drivers?
That was pretty quick, Dina.
That was very quick. Don't trust them as far as I can throw them. For the most part, that's great, but that's still not a yes, is it, Chuck? So some of your drivers you trust, some of them you don't. It's the accountability. What is interesting about this question is that this will help you determine how to create buy-in. Think about it. If you're trying to develop somebody to have buy-in, you have to have a level of trust. It isn't something that you can create buy-in by putting a lot of controls in place. Controls put in place literally mean to a driver, you don't trust me and you don't believe I'm going to do the right thing. We typically say that believing that you are going to do the right thing is where everything starts. If you don't believe that your drivers are going to do the right thing,
I don't know where he is.
why are they driving for you? Why are you having them drive for you? And it can't just be because we need warm bodies that'll fog a mirror, because you're basically looking for your next major accident with drivers that are like that. So how do we get drivers, how do we get the ability to be able to start to trust our drivers? How does that work?
Trisha, I think your mic is on.
Usually we don't put any stickers on.
Hi, Trisha.
Oh,
there she is. Okay, that's
got it.
All right. So think about it, guys. If we go into trying to create buy-in, then how do we create buy-in if we don't trust our drivers to engage with them? And then the next question is, how do we start to trust our drivers? How can we start to do that? How do we learn what they are taking in this, what they want out of this, what's important to them, and then start to work with them to develop that next phase of development? I think of it a lot of times as back in the day, this has been 15, 20 years ago, I was a U.S. Masters swim coach. This is adult swimming, open water swimming. That was my, I know you couldn't tell now, but that was my deal. And the one thing that we understood is that everybody that comes into this that needs coaching has their own ability level that they will achieve based on whatever it is. I mean, it could be physical stature. It could be that they want it. Some of them didn't want it. Some of them did want it. All of those kind of things factor into where you can get with that individual, but they have to claim it. They have to tell you what it is, and then you have to appreciate that to be able to work with them to get them where they are going to achieve the level. I've sat with drivers before a lot and said, so what do you want to get out of this truck driving thing? What's in it for you? And what is the number one answer I get in return? In fact, I would say it's number one with a bullet. The number one answer why truck drivers are in the business of being truck drivers. Anybody? There it is. Number one answer on the board. Kara wins the prize here. It's money. I want to get paid. I want to make money. Does a driver ever think that they make enough money? Hey, I'm making great money at this. I love the money that I'm making. No, they don't. So we've already identified this chasm that exists with what a driver wants and what they're able to get. All the rest of it, you can't just pay them more. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that, but knowing that and addressing it, being the elephant in the room, then how can we start to coach a driver how to stay out of trouble, how to make more money at what they're doing, how to take their time, be patient, stay out of trouble, all of those kind of things. That's a big part of this. And I love that answer. If they feel appreciated and valued, they're going to want to work for you. They're also going to see what winning looks like. This is another thing that I know about truck drivers is that most of us, if not almost all of us, are pretty competitive. In fact, when I stand in a room of truck drivers teaching this principles of defensive driving thing, just as an illustration of this point, I say, who is the best truck driver in this room right now? And typically there's going to be at least one of them that goes, it's me. And the rest of them goes, well, I think it's me, but I didn't really want to say it out loud in case you're going to challenge that or somebody else is going to challenge that I'm the best truck driver in the world. But here's what you can do. taking that, just that element of our personalities or our behavior that says that I'm competitive, I want to do better, I want to be better than the next guy, and exploiting that for what it can do as that intrinsic motivator. You don't have to just do extrinsic motivators. You don't just have to pay more money to keep a driver wanting to do better and better if you can create a sense of what winning is. And you have to define what winning means. You have to show a driver how to obtain that. And then we have to start to look at how they start to move. I love that you said, what if we train them and they leave? What if we don't train them and they stay? The thing that I can say is that training to an intrinsic motivator, behaviors that we see, helping and coaching and then giving ownership, also typically leads to more longevity, even though they can maybe make more money down the road. It's not going to save every one of them, Chuck, but it will help as you start to move that needle of other things that they're working for other than money. If you can be great at something, that's an intrinsic motivator. If you feel like you're the best at something, it's also an intrinsic motivator. So all of those things can keep you looking at moving the needle forward in progress just by stating what a win is, seeing what that we're winning together, and then start to measure those things and give feedback from it.
I love Chuck's comment about I'm a firm believer that you train them better at their job, they will be happier. I don't think there's a truer statement when it comes to that. We see that with a lot of our customers. They have merged basically their hiring process, their orientation, new hire orientation with the driver training program that we have built. And they have seen their drivers more connected, better at their job, understanding what they need to do. They have better drivers that understand, what they're looking for, and better at behaviors and just better as a whole. So I love that comment, Chuck. Thank you for posting that. That is fantastic. So
absolutely. I also love what Dina's saying right here about it's like your kids. They don't know that they need boundaries. No, they don't. They're rogue agents. The kids raising teenagers kind of reminded me of being a truck driver a little bit because it's like this is leave me the heck alone and let me go do what I'm going to do. So I like this slide. I know we're kind of coming to the to where we only have a few more minutes here, but this is how to create buy-in. Adult learners, they need to know why they're doing something. This is a fundamental element of adult learning, guys, is that adult learners need to know why they are doing something. They also need to know, right along with that, they need to know the why. They need to know how they are going to apply the training tomorrow. It can't be something that we're training and then saying we're not coming back to this for another 2 or 3 weeks. Janice loves this every bit because I'm going to talk to you about the Alice Cooper effect. The Alice Cooper effect is a term that I just coined not too long ago, or I guess early on in my career, where it builds on this fundamental principle of if you teach somebody something and then they don't apply it, as soon as they learn it to pass a test, as soon as they pass the test, school's out forever. School's out for summer at least, and they won't remember anything that they did to pass the test. This happens a lot in entry-level driver training for new drivers that are coming into the industry. They will learn everything about how to drive that truck, back that truck, vehicle inspections, all of that safely to get their CDL. They got their CDL, you ask them to do it next week, and they will have their skills drop off so dramatically because all they were learning it for was how they were going to apply it for the test. Give the drivers the future of this thing, what we want to do every single time. Give them something that they can practice, and then go to the behaviors that it takes and the values that are added from the training that's happening. Be very honest about desired outcomes. Share with your team and with your team of drivers. This is where we need to get to, guys. This is how we stay solvent. This is how we stay in business. This is how we keep the lights on and everything on this place. And then absolutely involve your team in the feedback process. Involve your drivers in the feedback process. I ask drivers all the time, how'd that work for you? Was that working for you any better? Here's another trick that I use. I use this with our Keller trainers a lot. I say, I want you to try this and tell me what's wrong with it. If you can ever ask a driver to do something and you know they don't want to do it, ask them to give you that what's wrong with it, and then try it for a week. I want you to give it a good effort for 1 week and then come back and tell me what's wrong with it. What you'll see is that you start off with a I don't want to, you gotta, and that's going to be immediately everything is wrong with it. But if what you can do is say, man, I need you to try this for a little while and then tell me what's wrong with it, you will find that a lot of drivers come back with just a couple of things that they would like to have tweaks, and those tweaks will work, and then it's their program. This is the thing. There's not a safety program that is yours against them. This is their safety program. This is their interest. This is in their best interest. And this is a way for you to create them to be able to win in the experience. You want to create buy-in, start to generate small wins and celebrate the heck out of them. And you'll start to have that buy-in.
All I wanted them is to get home safe. I used to say that all the time in my fleet, Dina. Sounds very similar to things that I would say in my fleet. So well done. Well done.
Absolutely. Well, yep. Go ahead, Jim. I'm sorry. That's the statement.
So I wanted you to talk to the group about our defensive driving program and kind of what we do here at Keller.
Sure. Let's go, because I know we don't have a lot of time left. And again, just appreciate everybody from jumping on, sharing in the discussion. That's what these are all about. The reason that we wanted to open this up in a town hall format is so that you can be participative. We want to hear from you. We love all of the comments back and forth. We want these to be more of a meeting with industry people that are doing this job every single day, and just kick around these ideas so that we all can get better. Think about this for a second. We have had this subject approached for as long as I've been in trucking, probably as long as we've had a CDL program, we've had something like this. Why aren't the numbers changing? Why are we not seeing this dramatic reduction in incidents and accidents from, cameras going in and from, dictative programs and all of this kind of stuff? And I think it has to be because at the end of the day, it is up to your drivers to do what they think is best to improve their practice and take ownership of their role in this. And that's what has to happen in order to do this. And yeah, so follow through has to be based on, how does this work for you? How is this working for you? How does this help you? And then show them what winning means. But the one thing I want to take from this is that narrative driving is a little bit different. We established narrative driving on the key reason that everyone's narrative is a little different, but all of them can be, how do we build more space and more time to make decisions? When we look at C decide act, C is a huge part of this. Are we looking for movement early enough to be able to start to make decisions based on what we see is unusual movement out there? So as long as we're always looking for that in order to, I call it drive on an island. Anybody that's ever been through our Principles of Defensive Driving program, you will hear let's drive on an island, because I want to drive not just defensively, I want to drive effortlessly. I want to have space every single time, because I want a very easy way of getting through my day. No matter how bad the traffic is, I can find space somewhere if I'm looking for it. So looking for movement, looking for, different actions that we can do. We put all of this into our Principles of Defensive Driving program to teach drivers a better way to get into that conversation with traffic and start to ask, what's that person thinking? What's that person thinking right now? Do we want to jump in the middle of the mosh pit right now? For you guys that don't know what I'm talking about there, if you've ever been to a rock concert, we mentioned Alice Cooper, that was for Janice. But if you've ever been to a rock concert and you wanted to jump in the middle of the mosh pit down there at the front of the stage, then you go right ahead. I have no reason to do that, and especially not if I'm in an 80,000-pound tractor trailer going down the road. I want to be away from everybody else. So then narrative driving puts us in a position where we can be asking better questions to create that space, create effortless driving, even in the heaviest traffic, and by narrating. That's my big pitch for narrative driving. I drove all the way back from Neenah down to Northwest Arkansas using it, and went through Kansas City. I on purpose went through downtown Kansas City. I know Des Moines, Kansas City isn't like LA or New York or Chicago or anything, but I have used this thing every single city that I've been at. Offer for longer CMVs, absolutely, because the principles apply in any situation, doubles, triples, all of it. And we can also, Jim, you're the training manager here. So, when we design a program for you, it is not out of the box, but we want to look at what you do, what your drivers do, so that we can configure a better practice for you to be able to get the most out of the training program and the defensive driving program that we use with you. Then when we go on site to teach it, or when we train your trainers on how to teach it, we also teach your trainers how to put it in the perspective of the driver and the job that they're doing, how to listen to the driver better, how to be able to come up with those coaching points that help the driver get better at what they're wanting to do. I love longer CMVs and doubles, triples, that kind of thing, because these guys, when you've got I don't know if we still call them wiggle wagons, but those guys that are driving a wiggle wagon down the road, they have to have nerves of steel a lot of time to watch that third trailer back there doing this. I'm hoping that if you do have doubles or triples, you're laughing right now at what that is.
No, if you're interested, Chuck, we can definitely connect you with a sales rep. We would jump on to find out what plagues you. And I will tell you, the great thing about our defensive driving program is through the assessment, we'll figure out what plagues your fleet and what specific needs you have. Every single one of our classes is different based off of the customer, based off of what they're looking for.
Go to the assessment they get, Jim. That's next. Tell them what they get.
Yep. So first and foremost, before we get into this, we appreciate everybody for jumping on. This town hall wouldn't be done without Janice. Thank you, Janice. And then our sponsored by JJ Keller's driver training program, Safe and Smart. Brandon and I have been part of this program. We've been able to see some of these best practices and been able to build this program from the ground up. So we're very excited, very happy. This defensive driving program is new. It is refreshed. It has a lot of different things that some of the programs in the industry you're not going to see. So there's a lot to like about it. So, but what we are offering today is if you free training that needs assessment, you can get on the phone with one of our sales rep or one of us training managers and work through this. For the next month, you'll get 10% off of one of our principals defensive driver offerings if you reach out. Have conversations with our sales team. I know many of you are already customers of JJ Keller, so being able to work through that. So we're very excited about that. So reach out to us in the next month before our next driver training town hall, and we'll get you on the books and we'll get you scheduled. So, yep. Next session at Janice's point. Last slide we've got here is next session is going to be August 21st. This one is a really good one. Brandon and I like to nerd out about this one. Coaching is kind of our jam. We really like this. So the power of having the right coach. How do you coach individuals? Not everybody is meant to be a driver, but can they be a coach too? Well, we'll answer some of those questions. So we're super excited that you all attended today. Does anybody have any questions? We're going to leave the floor open for the next 5 minutes or so for any questions.
Jim, thank you very much too. I know I tend to go down some goat trails and get into this Arkansas accent. If you can't understand my accent, I'm sorry about that, folks. But I am always just love being here with you. Dina, jump in, please. Unmute your mic. What's on your mind?
Oh, she didn't mean to raise her hand.
Nope.
So
okay. That's all right. Anybody tell us any questions, comments, concerns. This is not easy. Let me say that, in an hour conversation where you're hearing, some of the ideas that we've floated out there, it takes patience. It really does. You won't have this overnight, but you have to be diligent. You have to be firm in your commitment to improvement. You have to know you can win, because no coach can ever show up with this feeling that this isn't going to do any good. they will do no good for the drivers that they're trying to coach if they don't believe that they can win. Think about a coach that goes in to the locker room before a game. There isn't a single coach out there that's going in before the game and saying, well, I don't know if we're going to win or not. I don't know if we're going to do any good with this or not. You have to believe it. If you believe it, you can make it happen, and then just start to look for every little thing that you can start to do to advance that driver behavior. I'm confident it'll work for you.
Absolutely. Dina says that's where we're struggling, the coaches. Well, we'll look forward to seeing you back here in August, because we nerd out about some of this stuff. This is stuff that we're not normal. We talk about coaching all the time. So
get on a needs assessment, Dina. I want you to take advantage of that needs assessment. We can learn what your coaches, where they're struggling, look at a trainer certification that we can address just the coaching needs that you want around any kind of program that's going to work for your company. So that's also something that we would be excited to talk to you about. Chuck, you'd say the same, but you're the coach. I like that. Yeah, it's okay for a coach to be somewhat not confident in their abilities, as long as they have a firm resolve on how to get better at something and how we need to do this. As long as you are genuine, then you can be a genuine coach, but you have to believe it, and you have to believe you can win. That is absolutely essential, is that a coach cannot believe anything except we have the ability to affect change and to win and to do our best work. And that, I think, is what you absolutely need to believe when you're doing stuff like this. And then be patient. It does take time. All right.
Chuck asked if we could do an ELDT and defensive driving program. I'll let you answer that, Brandon.
Absolutely. I think that they should be, if you're looking at entry-level driver training. Well, the question I would have for you is, are you talking about bringing somebody into the industry and getting them their CDL for the first time, or are you talking about onboarding? Because I know the industry looks at entry-level driver training somewhat differently. What I would say is that you should do the entry-level driver training and defensive driver training at the same time, because of the Alice Cooper effect. If you're just teaching somebody to get the CDL, then you're just teaching them what it takes to get the CDL. But if you want to teach them how learning from you how to obtain their CDL is going to make them a better driver, the best driver on day one, then you'll include defensive driving in your entry-level driver training program. Dusty and I have worked together on entry-level driver. I don't know if he's still on the call or not, but I would say that he and I have had conversations about this, and that's got to be true if you are thinking about bringing the best people into the industry and not just trying to get people their CDL for the first time. Chuck, does that make sense at all?
Absolutely. I think you've got to do both. To have a good CDL driver, they've got to go through a good defensive driver program. That's the way I look at it. So
just remember the Alice Cooper effect. If they learn it to do the next test, and school's out forever. If they learn it to create a career and a life for themselves, then you have built a better driver in the industry. Thank you all so much for your time. Jim, Janice, thanks so much for having me on the call.
Thanks, gang. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your Thursday, and we'll see you again in August. Take care.
Appreciate y'all. Thanks.